Good morning, and welcome to Unity of Orange County. We're so glad that you decided to join us today. We like to begin our service with our mission and our vision statement. And so our vision statement is centered in divine love, we joyfully co create a world that works for all. And our mission is to awaken, inspire, and transform lives. So, right after the service, well, at 11 o'clock, we are going to have our town hall meeting. I sent out an email yesterday with the Zoom link. If you did not get that link, please email me at minister@unityoforangecounty.org, and I will get that to you before the meeting starts. And today I want to thank Tom, who is doing our audio, and John, the video, and Bill is our at the piano, and Christopher is our daily word and meditation person. So at this time, I would like to welcome Christopher for the daily word.
Today's theme is release for Sunday, April 26, 2020. I release all that does not contribute to my highest good. John's gospel tells of Jesus restoring life to his friend Lazarus, who had been dead for 4 days. As Jesus cries, "Lazarus, come out," his friend emerges from the tomb, burial cloth still covering his face and wrapped around his hands and feet. Jesus says to those who have gathered, "Unbind him and let him go." Even after a spiritual resurrection, I may remain bound, like Lazarus, by thoughts, ideas, feelings, or habits that keep me from the full experience of freedom. Through my divine power of elimination, I release negative feelings, dissolve error thoughts, and free myself from habits and actions that do not serve my highest good. I am no longer bound, I am free. And from John chapter 11, verse 44, the dead man came out, his hands and feet bound with strips of cloth, and his face wrapped in a cloth. Jesus said to them, "Unbind him and let him go." And now let us prepare for our meditation. Okay, just relax, sit comfortably. Take 3 deep breaths. And I'm going to ask you to please not move a muscle for the next 5 minutes. Sit perfectly still, relaxing your feet and your ankles and your lower legs. Relax your thighs, relax your hips, your stomach, your back and your chest. Relax your shoulders, your arms and hands. Relax your face and your ears and your hair, and everything is completely relaxed. Breathe normally and inhale the word peace, and exhale, be still. Inhale peace, exhale, be still. Inhale peace, and exhale, be still. And continue on with that. And I'm going to ask you, even if you have an itch, don't move your hand over to scratch it, because it'll move and go away on its own accord. Remember that you are spirit. You have a body and you have a brain, but we are not our body, We are not our brain. We are spirit. Inhale, peace. Exhale, be still. And if there's a sound like a passing airplane or a truck going by and your mind goes over to it, just bring it back to peace, be still. If your mind wanders away, bring it back to peace, be still. Just stay focused on peace, be still. If your mind has wandered away again, just bring it back to peace, be still. That's the only thing to think of now is peace, be still. And when you're ready, slowly open your eyes and be back here now. Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher, for that wonderful meditation. And so I often get asked when people ask me what I do and I tell them a unity minister, they will usually ask me, well, what is unity and what does unity believe? And it's not really that easy sometimes to explain. I try to say it's a spiritual path, not a religious path. I say we believe in one presence, one power. And even here, every Sunday, we go over our 5 basic principles. But a lot of times we really don't think about what it is that we believe and what separates unity from so many other spiritual or religious paths. So how I got to unity will help a little bit. I want to start with that. So all my life when I was a child, I was brought up Jewish. Religion never made any sense to me. I loved the traditions, and especially in Judaism, I loved the holidays with all the food, but the religion never made any sense. My parents sent me when I was 5 to a yeshiva because I didn't get into the public school kindergarten. It was full, and I lasted 1 week and I got kicked out. Later on, they sent me to a Sunday school. I think I lasted 3 weeks there, and then I got kicked out. And the reason I kept getting kicked out is I kept questioning these things that they were telling us. So one of my favorite holidays was always Passover. And Passover is the holiday that celebrates the Israelites' exodus out of Egypt. And I remember thinking that here was Moses doing this, what God wanted him to do, taking his people out of Egypt, leading them through the 10 plagues and into the desert, and 40 years in the desert, on the way to the promised land. And after doing all of this, what happens? He doesn't get into the promised land. Well, why doesn't he get into the promised land? Well, God told him to hit a rock and water would come from it. And so Moses hit the rock, but water didn't come right away. So he hit it again. And because he doubted what God had told him, he doesn't get to go into the promised land. Well, as a kid who never did anything I was told to do, and I would go right when people would tell me left, I'd go left when people, I thought if Moses isn't getting into the promised land, I don't have any shot at all. You know, I am doomed forever in the desert. And so I thought, well, why do I want to believe in this God that is so strict that if I do anything wrong, I'm going to be doomed for the rest of my life? So I had this issue. And then my mother, who was the most religious person I knew, when I was 16, got ill. And I watched her suffer for many years. And I made the decision that if this person that believed in God more than anybody else I knew would suffer so much, that I decided to choose that I was not going to believe in God. That as far as I was concerned, there was no God. Life would be a lot easier. I wouldn't have to worry, am I doing right, am I doing wrong? Am I going to heaven, am I going to hell? Whatever, that there was no God. We just lived, we died, we turned into dust, and that was it. And I lived that way for many years. And then, as a result of some stuff going on in my life, in an act of desperation one night, I decided to surrender. And in doing so, I had this experience. I had an experience of God, but it wasn't the God that I had been brought up to believe in. It was this feeling of complete love and acceptance, and just made me feel like everything was okay, that whatever I had done did not matter, that there was no God judging me, that love and forgiveness was really it, and I felt this warmth surrounding me. And so I had this feeling, but it didn't fit anything. It certainly didn't fit the religion that I was brought up in, and it really didn't fit any of the religions that any of my friends believed in. And one day a friend of mine convinced me to go to Unity with her. And I said no. And she asked me 3 times. And finally, to get her off my back, I decided I would go with her to this Unity, which met in a synagogue. Because I said to her, I'm not going to any church if there's any crosses or Jesus or anything like that. You know, it's bad enough I don't believe in God. If I go to something like that, my mother's going to be rolling over in her grave. She said she promised me it wouldn't be that the Unity met in a synagogue. I thought, okay, I can take that. So we went. And when the minister spoke, I found that I did not have to adjust what I believed to fit them. That all of a sudden I found people who believed like I did. So what did they believe? And for me, this has been so important for me. So we have 5 basic principles, and we read them every Sunday. But basically, the first principle is that there's one presence, one power in the universe, and that's God, and God is good. And this nature of God is presence, power, and knowledge, wisdom. So we say that God is omnipresence, God is omnipotence, and God is omniscience. So what does that mean? So God is omnipresence. That means that God isn't any being or anything that is only present in one place. That God is a presence that is everywhere the same. You know, when I was young, I used to wonder when my mother would tell me to say my prayers, what if I say my prayers, but God is listening to somebody else? It never made any sense to me how this man with a long white beard in a robe sitting up in the sky somewhere could possibly hear everybody. Somebody was getting gypped, and I was sure it was me. So it just didn't make any sense to put God in a person, because there was no way in my comprehension I could see a person being able to be everywhere for everyone. But God isn't a person. God is presence. God is everywhere present. So when we say that you are never alone, that's because God is always with you. Because God is within you, God is within everyone, God is within every plant, every tree, every rock, every animal. There is no place that we could be that God is not. And when we understand that, we realize that we don't have to be in a synagogue, we don't have to be in a church. We can be in our homes, we could be watching the computer, we could be walking down the street, we can be playing with our animals, and God is as present there as it is in the greatest cathedral in the world. So God is this presence, not a presence, but a presence that is everywhere. And God is omnipotence, meaning God is power. Not God is powerful. God is power. Man is powerful. God is power. When someone is powerful, that means they could lose their power. But when something is power itself, it is the energy, the force that is always available to us, no matter what. So, what does that mean for us? Well, there's times in our life, and this certainly is one of those times, that we might feel powerless. We might feel like we have no control over what is going in our life. We might feel like we can't go on another minute, that if life is just too hard, the struggles are too strong, we just cannot survive. We have financial issues. We have this disease going around. We can't see our loved ones. We can't hug. There's so many things that are going on right now. And we begin to feel powerless. We begin to feel that the world has taken over the control of our life, and we have nothing to say about that. But we are never powerless. We may be powerless over the things outside of ourselves, the people and places and things, but within each one of us is this power that we always have access to. It's like electricity. We may not be able to see electricity, but we know when we turn on that switch, the power will come on. It is the same thing with God. That power that is God is everywhere. And all we need to do is tap into that power. But sometimes we forget. We think that we have to do it ourselves. We think we have to be strong enough, that we have to come up with the power to do what is ours to do. We never have to do that. All we have to do is remember that the power that is God is also within us. So when I feel like I'm powerless, or I feel like I can't go on, or I feel like things are just more than I can handle, I turn it over. I let go. And I ask the power that is God to fill me up. And it never fails that when I tap into that power, I always have everything I need to do everything that is in front of me. When I feel like I'm exhausted and I can't go another minute, I know that all I have to do is ask to tap God. I ask God to fill that power that is God within me, and everything I need to do, I can do. And God is also omniscience, meaning God is all the wisdom of the universe. That means that God isn't knowledge that we can learn in a book. The wisdom of God could not, all the books in the world could not fill the wisdom of God. We seek wisdom in books, and we can gain some knowledge from books. But the wisdom that is God comes from within. So early on my spiritual path, I had a person who taught me about meditation. And at the time, this was actually even before I believed in a God. I did this as a form of therapy. I said to her, well, I don't believe in God, and I'm not going to meditate to some woo-woo thing in the sky or whatever. And she said, that's not what meditation is about. She says, what I want you to do is to become still and tap in to the wisdom that is within you. She said to me, there is a wisdom in the universe that is within all of us. But what happens to us is that rather than going within to tap into that wisdom, we look outside. And then we go looking for gurus, we go reading books, we go to ministers, rabbis, we're seeking the answers out there when all the answers that we need are within. And so when we meditate and we truly go within and we seek that inner wisdom, we always find the answers. Because God's wisdom is not just out there. God's wisdom is within each and every one of us. So this idea of this presence, this power that is everywhere, all power, all knowing, can be scary for some people. Because sometimes people have said to me, well, that's all well and good, but I want a God with skin. I want a God that I can imagine and I can feel like I can touch or that can touch me. And that's all well and good. But the fact of the matter is that if we place God in human form, we also put on God human frailties. Humans will fail us. Time and time again, they will fail us. But God is greater than that. God never fails us. So God is all, everywhere. God is the wisdom of the universe. God is the love that we seek. God is greater than anything we can define. As soon as we try to put God into words or into a picture or into a box, we limit God. For me, once I realized that, I no longer was afraid to pray because I no longer worried that somehow this God in the sky wasn't going to be listening to me, that he was going to be busy answering somebody else, or he was going to be at lunch, or maybe he was taking a nap, because that's what people do. They go to lunch, they take naps, they do all that kind of stuff. But as soon as I realized that God was so much greater than that, I never had to worry about that. I knew that God was always with me because I was always with God. We live and breathe and have our being in God. God is not only out there, God is within us. God is beneath us. God is around us. God is through us. And so for me, this first principle was so important. So if God is within us, it means that God is within everyone. And this is where we sometimes run into some problems. Well, what about evil in the world? And what about all that stuff? Because there certainly are evil people out there. Well, if you want the answer to that, you have to come next week when we talk about the divinity in humanity, because that's a whole nother subject. So right now, I'd like you to close your eyes for a moment and take a deep breath. And as you breathe in, realize that it isn't just air that we are breathing in. We are breathing in the very presence that is God, or whatever it is you want to call it. Presence, universe, spirit. The name is not important. What is important is the fact that it is everywhere. It is like a drop of water in the ocean. We are surrounded and enfolded in that presence. And God is power. Whatever we need in our lives, whatever struggle we are going through, we don't have to do it alone. There is a power greater than us. This power is always available to us. All we need to do is stop and breathe and take a moment to feel that power. And God is all the wisdom that we seek. Whenever we are at a difficult time in our life and we have trouble making decisions, we can make lists and we can talk to people. But the answers always come from within. The still small voice. And so know this, you are never alone. You always have everything you need to do whatever it is you have to do. Because God is presence, power, wisdom, and God is good. And so we say thank you. Thank you, sweet Spirit. Thank you, universe, for letting us know we are not alone. And so it is. So that come that time in our service when we like to review these 5 basic principles. It's also going to give you a little hint about what's coming up in the next few weeks. So the first principle is God is all good and active in everything, everywhere. There's a lot of ways that we can word these. These are actually for our children, and we are all children at heart. So I love using them. And 2, I am naturally good because God's divinity is in me and in everyone. And 3, I create my experiences by what I choose to think and what I feel and believe. And 4, through affirmative prayer and meditation, I connect with God and bring out the good in my life. And 5, I do and give my best by living the truth that I know. I make a difference. And one way you make a difference to this community is through your gifts. And although we may not be meeting in person, we appreciate your gifts. You can mail us your checks, or you can go and text. You can go to our website and donate there, or you can go on your phone and text the number 77977, and in the message you write, Unity of OC Give. You can give a one-time gift or recurring gifts. We appreciate any gifts that you give us, and we are so glad that you come with us. And also, if you come for the town hall meeting, we're going to talk about our new app that we have. We have a new app, and on the app is one place, and from that app, you can get our videos, my midweek messages, you can give, you can get our calendar, and you can reach us from YouTube and Facebook. So it's one app, does it all. So please come back at 11 o'clock for our town hall meeting, and we'll tell you all about the app. And we're so glad that you're joining us. And go get a cup of coffee and come back and join us in a few minutes. Thank you all for being here.